Greetings, I am Lotus, and today I'm going to be making something of a beginner's guide for players who have not played so much time on the game to understand some synergies with the character creator, platinum coins and the importance of them, trainers and where you should be able to use those platinum coins, and how to recruit people. And there's the two early game recruitable characters you can get with minimal effort. It just takes a little bit of time. That's about it. And to begin, we're going to go to the character creator, and I'm going to show you everyone's favorite beginner-friendly build. First off, though, turn on this little tab right here, and we're going to go to the Wraith and the Executioner. This is a good beginner-friendly build because Mana Body prevents you from dying when you're at 0 HP, because your mana bar is now your HP, and being a Wraith, your life points are at 40, which is for a baseline comparison, it's 100 for most characters. Being at 40 is very low, but your mana is 125. You can increase this all up more with feat points when you level up by getting magical gene and subsequent upgrades. But in a way, you can play this character pretty chill. There's nothing wrong with it. This character's Heart of Death means you get critical rate on your melee weapons. I think it's 33% at its maximum value, which I believe on Mana Body 3 you get that at 33% below your HP, but 33% of your HP or below. But I'm not entirely sure, as I have not played with the Executioner class as of yet. But it is a very good beginner-friendly build, and you can play this either with a physical weapon, a physical damage weapon without force, or you can do a force weapon like the one you get for Ichpelt. Now, we're going off of the Wraith. We're going to go right into Sword Sage when keeping the Wraith, and this is going to be a strictly force weapon, magical device playstyle, because you're still keeping the Mana Body, you're still keeping the Wraith, but you have 170 base casting and magic device, and you have high willpower and magic on the start. Though getting a magic device weapon on the beginning of your playthrough, say the first 100 days, is pretty tough, because there's some ways you can do it. The first way is getting a wish and going in and going to the wells and activating your wish for a lightsaber. Lightsabers are always the force weapons by default, and they're pretty powerful if you have good enough willpower and magic device skills. But the best method, somewhat early, is to get Ishpalt's weapon, because Sword Sage domains for elemental damage is fire, cold, and lightning, which all three of these types are on Ishpalt's weapon, and they increase damage. Nether damage is pretty negligible if you're not playing a Wraith, because nether damage gives you HP upon damage, and holy damage is actually pretty good because there's hardly any holy resistance among the enemies you do fight, and the ones that you do fight typically are always immune and are very dangerous to be next to anyways. Okay, now we're gonna go over to another build, which is a very simple, but it's a very simple build, playstyle wise. You're less gunner because you get a lot of marksmanship. You get investing and negotiation skills as well. Fast learner is also very powerful because you level up 25. You need 25% less XP, I believe, per level. And platinum coins are very, very powerful. I'm going to explain how the platinum coins work later on. Thief Fluff and Weapon and Range Mastery, pretty negligible, but they're still pretty good. They're buffs. And another thing about being this particular race and class type is that it doesn't show here, but the combat skill for gun is 190 base potential, so you're going to be leveling it up a lot, and you need a good amount of dexterity and perception to use ranged weapons, particularly guns, very effectively. Next, though, we're going to go to Hillfolk Warrior, because you get strong endurance and strength stat, and you can spec into heavy armor pretty well since you are a frontline combatant. And if you want to beat for the LARPing reasons, it's got mead blood, so you get stronger by being drunk, which is very funny. And there's nothing too special about saying this, but specking off the Hillfolk race, we're gonna go to Witch. And the only reason why I want to do this is for the Witch, is because of the Mead Blood trait, because you do get bonuses while being drunk, but you also get the increased temporary attributes bonus, which I believe the normal cap is 25%, but if you are a Hillfolk, I believe it's 50%, which is very powerful. And since you can make a lot more potions, I don't know what the exact number is, but I'm going off the belief that it's 2. You get, for every potion you make, you get a second one. So it's good at making potions, and the potions you make for Hillfolk are very, very potent. And for all honest reasons, this character build is pretty balanced. You have some magic you can do a forged weapon if you so desire, but you can also do melee weapons if you so desire, because hillfolks are strong as a baseline. Next, we're going to go right into another Executioner class, which is actually very particular, because you wouldn't expect it to be a functioning build at seeing this. Chaos Shape Executioner. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Chaos Shapes have mutating body, and that means you have 2 body parts on the start, that being an arm slot for your weapons and a torso for any piece of armor that you put on for a torso. And as every time you level up, you get a chance at mutating into getting another body part by spending your feat points on it. And the body part is random, so if you want to spec it into, say, 5 arms and whatnot, you're going to have to get lucky or use the save system so you can change that, because it is random. And because you are the Executioner, you still get the mod body feat, and that's just enough, because as you level up and you get more body parts, the body parts will start affecting you as a character, because you will start losing life points, speed, and charisma. The charisma you can negate pretty easily, but the speed and the life points are very detrimental unless you are eating the little ones, which you get from killing big daddies, and you get 10 Atom, which is the maximum a player character, mind you, can have. And so, it's not really a detriment, because if you're playing the monobody, you don't really care about your life points. And if you're playing with a lot of arms, your weapon, you're going to be hitting very hard. Especially if you're going to have something like a scythe, because scythes are very powerful. And you can play these either as a dual wielder or a two-handed if you so desire. But other than that, this is a very funny build, because you're kind of reliant, though, if you do not play this build, if you're not understanding of the game, because Chaos Shapes is very tough early on, but it scales really well late game because you have all the extra body parts, and that all means extra equipment, and the extra equipment gives you more protection and more enchantments to boost your stats even more. Next, we're going to go to a very powerful two-handed build, which is the Golem Paladin. And the reason why I say this is because you get 190 base potential for two-handed weapons. And Paladins are typically only going to be going for Jode as a Faith, so you're going to get the Holy Lance if you're going to do that first, if you're going to do a God Relay first. Doing Jode first will actually be very helpful, because the Holy Lance has holy damage on, and as I said before, holy damage is very hard to be mitigated except for certain enemies, and the racial traits mean for golems are that you're very, very tanky, and you also have some baseline protection value and some physical damage reduction, but you're also more susceptible to magic damage, and even more so, you have arcane core. Lightning resistance is lowered a lot, I think by -10. So the first boss you'll fight in the mill, the mage, he has lightning ball, so do be careful when you fight him, because he can ruin your day, very much so. Though the offset is that you're immune to poison damage, which in some cases isn't so bad, but cut damage as well, which is very good if you're not able to understand how to fight enemies that inflict bleed, like Younger Shark Sister or Blade Omegas. And being able to be immune to daze. Daze is a very detrimental ability, because being dazed, or as it is classified as a debuff in the corner, dim, it reduces your melee weapon accuracy and your casting chance on your spells, which is very, very potent for people who rely upon their accuracy or your spells, obviously. But the thing is that when it progresses even further, it becomes muddle, and muddle prevents all actions taken by the character who's inflicted with it. And the biggest enemy that has sound damage is Spiral Kings, which are very strong, and especially so in the Void. So you having this ability right here, which is the only way you can be immune to daze, unless you have a lot of sound resistance, which is not that hard to come by. You might get lucky with equipment, but having it as an immunity chance immediately is also pretty good. And to negate the speed detriment at 70, typically it's 100 for baseline, you just get a mount from Yoan, the Yoan horse, and you start using the riding skill early on, so you can negate the debuff. Next, we're going to go into Mifu, particularly Mifu, Inquisitor. And the reason why I picked this class together is because Mifu has increased effects on your buffs, that being like Holy Shield, Hero, and increased effects against enemies with hexes like Elemental Scar, Nightmare, and I believe in Miasma spells affect that as well. And you have a good Faith skill bonus, which is actually pretty nice, because Faith is one of those skills that's very hard to level up unless you're doing dodo farming. And another reason why I picked Inquisitor as well is because Inquisition removes God buffs when you apply the Bane debuff, which is also empowered by a Fox Ward. And when you inflict a Bane debuff, you get the excommunication, which means all god buffs upon that character who has it is now removed. And this is a very potent ability because Bane reduces someone's luck, and luck is very, very powerful because it reduces not only your accuracy, for the Bane particularly reduces accuracy a little bit, but reducing luck means the enemies will now do less damage overall because they have their dice roll will now become the weakest version of their type. And removing god buffs against enemies in the void, particularly level enemies that are about 2,000 or higher. The god buffs they gain are probably in the hundreds, so removing this is very, very powerful, especially against enemies that have speed increases like Lulway's god buff, or Ishpalt's if you're not too careful about elemental resistance and all that. But those two are the most noticeable ones. Next, we're going to go into a mage build with Yildirna, I pronounced it correctly, and wizard. And the reason why I picked this one is because you have control magic and magic device. The magic device is pretty good. You can get that for canes and whatnot, but mostly for the control magic aspect because you have magic precision, which basically doubles the control magic skill, which allows you to use AoE spells without inflicting damage too much upon your allies. This build mostly relies upon you having a lot of AoE spells, because you're going to be able to hit the enemies hard and your allies with very little. And the bottom of the mana feat is also pretty good because that means even at 0 mana, you can still use your spells and take less damage from the feedback when you're overcasting. And you can increase this more by having I believe it's let me find it, it's the magic capacity skill, which is very, very powerful because you can overcast longer. And finally, there is one more grouping you want to do if you want to torture yourself. Don't do this, by the way. Even as a veteran, don't do this. Snail Tourist, and because it's actually nuts how insane this is, because you die to salt, and there's janitors in the game, and if a janitor upon seeing a snail will always throw salt water at you, and it'll kill you because it does a lot of damage. The only real good skill here is the fishing skill on the start, so that you can get some sound, but this is actually an insanely terrible class, so don't ever play it even if it's a challenge. It's not worth it. Next, we're going to be talking about platinum coins, this special currency, which is going to be very helpful for you when you level up your skills. And the main way you get these is by going to your quest board or any quest board in any of the various towns and just do quests. You get platinum coins for as part of the reward. You might get some other coins like copper or gold or silver, but the platinum coins are the most special ones and the ones you get the most frequently of. You can also get these via regular chests you find on the wild or dungeons, or you might even get them as boss drops, or if you're lucky, the ones you get from treasure maps as well, you might get them as well. And let me grab this for a second. How to spend these coins, you simply go to different various towns and you go to them and you search up for trainer, and you use the trainers here to level up particular skills. And you can find these trainers in almost every town, and every guild has their own specific trainer, which you need to join to have them. You can come here and do these. You spend these coins to learn skills if you do not have them, obviously, but you can also train their potency. The potency allows you to level up the skills quicker, like I do here with Faith. Right now I have 256. I typically step around 400 because after you level up the skill, the potency does reduce by a significant amount, and it is very, very important to not overspend. But if you're willing to spend as much platinum coins as possible, it's up to you how you spend these things. Now you just come to every town, you do quests that make sense. You can get meal quests, collections, guide quests. Do keep in mind about the guide quests. Don't be too far away from the guide upon entering or leaving the area because it will fail the quest. And there's there's specific guilds that have their own trainers, which you do need to join the guilds to access. This is very, very important. Sorry. Let me get to the Thieves Guild and then show you the particular skills that you can get from these guys. There's also a trainer here in Durfee, which is very important because this one here allows you to get disarm, trap, and spot hidden, which is very good if you want to get stuff like icy chips and microchips, which are very important recipe items that you need for stuff like generators. Oops. And this is the trainer. No, the trainer's down here. I don't come here often. I just come here one time and then call it a day because typically I don't really train up these skills without thing. But since this is where you get greater evasion at. There's also some trainers up in the... Get out of here. Did I fail? I did fail. Sorry guys. All right. Use this. There's two trainers here. And one in the overworld and one was in the Fighters Guild. And there's a trainer here, here, and here, and here. And there's also the one in the Mages Guild. The Mages Guild also has a specialized trainer. But you don't need to do any training in Palmia because the Palmia trainer I believe is the same as the one down here in Olvina. So the one you need to really worry about is the one in Port Kapul, Durfee, Tinker's Camp, Olvina, Willow. What is this one? Merchant's Guild, and Marsilia. Those have all the skills you need, and obviously the Mages Guild. There's nothing else you can do. There's no trainer, I don't believe, in the Nefu village, or there's no one here in Spec Wing, and I don't believe there's anyone down here either. And there's obviously no trainer down here in the village with Tournament. That is the only spot that you can. The spots that you would have typically trainers. I believe there is a trainer up in Noel, but it's not special because it's a duplicate of something else. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but all the skills you get is from these particular towns up here, down on the west side and south in the south central. And finally, I'm gonna be showing you where to find two very easy but unique NPCs that will help you early game that have little effort in recruiting them. And the first one is gonna be Metalith, which I do already have her here. But the way where to get her at is you come out to your base, obviously wherever it's at, and you go into the Haunted Mansion. This is the little zone here, and you do her little quest. And when you do her little quest, there is a particular item in the back area of the let's just say the boss chest room. That if you pick this up and bring it back to her, she will join your party without any issue. Though if you do not pick that as the first option, you can always just recruit her through the charisma method, which you need to have more charisma than her highest stat, which you can look up on the wiki and it'll tell you, because I don't believe there's any much changes between the wiki and her stats in game, though equipment will change that. But most of the time you can get able to get it off. Now, here's the thing: it is best to take her special item to recruit her first, because you can always go back into the Haunted Mansion and take everything else later. Then the penalties remain the same for doing that. Next, though, we're gonna go to Marsilia, because Marsilia has the other. Oh my! Give me a second. Okay. Marsilia has the other unique NPC that has very little effort in recruiting in, and that is going to be the older younger sister, which is a very, very funny name, because this is a Japanese game for people who are interested in the game but have not played it yet. And you come over to Marsilia, she's right here. And if we were to say yes, she'll ask you a series of questions, and once you get all those questions correct, she'll then ask you for her lunch money, which is 10,000 orens, which in the early game shouldn't take you too long to get, but you can get her for free after doing that. She'll join your party after you do the questionnaire and the 10,000, and she's a level 15 on start and has Intonation of Chaos, which in the early game, there's barely any units that are immune to chaos damage or even resistant to it. So she's a very powerful melee user if you're willing to invest in her. And that's all for today on this particular guide. I do like it. Wish I would like and subscribe what would happen, because it helps boost me in the algorithm, and especially for people who are interested in the game, who are unsure of whether or not they're interested in it, especially since all the beginner guides are somewhat old. They're still usable, but they're not up to the latest version. And then I'm not gonna go too depth on every nitpicky thing, other than, like I said, the platinum coins, the recruiting, the where to find the trainers at, and even character creators. Other than that, I would again appreciate a like and subscribe. I appreciate y'all spending your time watching my video, and I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day. You'll have a good night. Good night. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that in there.